Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, MASSCANN. Thank you, Steve Mandilli, for making this happen. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. So if you're wondering what my role in this is I am a wholehearted supporter. I am not a disabled veteran. I do not have PTSD. I do not have opiate use disorder, but I am somebody that sees the benefit in having this added. So what I am is a wholehearted ally. And I think it's important to have allies for our disabled veterans and for other people that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. What we want to do is we always want to have inclusion. We always want to destigmatize cannabis, and we always want to let people know, especially those that have been harmed and didn't have the option for cannabis, to know that cannabis is an option. I think it's important that, you know, a lot of people can read like a brief like synopsis about something, like you'll just read a headline or you'll just read a paragraph or you read like part of a post, but it's always like behoove you to take the time to actually read the bill itself to get a clear idea of what's going on. And I've been posting that all over line, all over the internet, and I know Steve has and Grant has, but take a time to look at S70 and H179, and the name of the bill is an act to further define eligibility for medical use marijuana. And I think it's important, further define, nothing is being taken away. And I find that a lot of the pushback I'm getting is, what are we losing? What are we losing? It's okay, we're not gonna lose anything. Nothing is being lost, nothing is being lost. Things are only being added. So with that in mind, the very first section of the bill tells you that there are already qualifying conditions that are listed, specifically adding post-traumatic stress disorder and adding opiate use disorder does not take away from cancer. It does not take away from glaucoma. It does not take away from HIV. It does not take away from the conditions that are already listed. It just adds them to the list. And then the second part of it, and any other qualifying condition that a physician sees fit, that stays there. That stays there, perfect, completely intact as it is. All we are doing is adding 2 more specific conditions, which in no way takes away from any other conditions, in order to help destigmatize. So that is very, very important. So it's about destigmatizing, and it's about letting you know, veterans that are disabled know that there's another way to get cannabis access. So that's the second part of the bill. And the second part of the bill is streamlining their ability to get a medical marijuana card. So what are we losing? We're losing nothing. Nothing is being lost. An extra paragraph is being added. Nothing is being taken away from the aforementioned paragraph. So I really think that's important. And if you're wondering, well, how is Massachusetts going to do this? Don't worry, we're not piloting this. It's already been done by states like Illinois and North Dakota. We will be the 3rd state to take this on. I think it's important to mention that what is the point of dragging your feet on good legislation, on common sense legislation that just makes sense and is just beneficial for everybody? So with that in mind, you know, Massachusetts will be maybe the 37th state to specifically add post-traumatic stress disorder, and the last state in New England to add post-traumatic stress disorder. Why not be top 3 to allow for streamlined access? It doesn't take away from anything. And there are wonderful doctors' offices who have been very vocal in the need for veterans and patient care and all of that good stuff. And they do, you know, they are a for-profit business, so they can't give free recommendations all the time. It's just not fair to ask them to do that. But they hold special days, and they'll help out where they can, and that's the point, help out where you can. And what we're asking is for, very specifically, disabled veterans to be able to use their disability letter with a bona fide relationship that they already have with the Department of Veterans Affairs that shows that they are disabled for this condition, whatever it might be, and they can just send in that paperwork to the state, and then the state issues them the ID card. They don't need to go to a doctor. You just go to a doctor, you give them all your disability paperwork, and they say, yep, this is disability paperwork, and then they'll move you along. So it's a different dynamic, and it's in no way going to cheat any of these organizations. We're not trying to take money out of anybody's mouths. This is a portion of a demographic that probably wouldn't be seen. It is, you know, important to make mention that we are losing 22 veterans a day to suicide and overuse of opiates. So here we are trying to add PTSD and opiate use disorder as qualifying conditions to help combat this. So let's say that we put this into place and it saves 1 life. It saved 1 life. Like, it was worth it just for that. It doesn't hurt you to add the extra post-traumatic stress disorder and opiate use disorder next to all these other qualifying conditions. And many states add post-traumatic stress disorder well after their medical marijuana program is already up and running. Maine is a perfect example. Maine allowed for medical marijuana in 1999, but they did not add post-traumatic stress disorder until 2013. Do the math with me, people. 14 years later. That doesn't mean, oh, well, we haven't added it for 14 years. Why do we need it now? They're like, we didn't add this for 14 years. We should add it now. Massachusetts, we have had a medical program for 9 years. So with that in mind, we could add it before we're under the decade line. Within the first decade of our medical marijuana program, we added post-traumatic stress disorder and opiate use disorder. Please don't pretend like Massachusetts does not have an opiate use disorder problem. If you walk down any city, any town, any place near a methadone clinic, we've all seen it. It's something that we want to combat. It's something that we want people to know that before they even try opiates. Did you know about cannabis? And did you know that for a lot of us, you were either in the DARE program or you were a parent of the child in the DARE program. So it's really hard to mentally reconcile with things that you've been ingrained with things that are new fact and science. And so what we're finding is, we need to take time to, I'm an educator, so I'm never going to say like, that's stupid or like your concerns aren't valid. Your concerns are valid. Please let me know what they are. And let's see if we can use, the information we have to quell these fears, and then that opening up that dialogue. But what we have with our opposition is they don't want dialogue. They're not interested in, well, how does this benefit? Who does this benefit and why? All they hear is this could possibly take away from people that write my paycheck. This could possibly maybe hurt the amount of patients that I see, but it's a portion of a demographic that is at a higher risk for suicide than anybody else. You probably weren't going to see them anyway. And if they could be seen by somebody and get cannabis, isn't that the point? Isn't your whole ethos do no harm to others? So you're being harmful right now and you're being counterproductive. And again, it wouldn't take away from your profit margins in a way that you wouldn't be able to like pay your bills or eat. And also adding 2 other qualifying conditions, I feel is going to help to add people wanting to get a recommendation. So any profit that would have been lost will be regained with those 2 conditions being added is kind of my thought on it. And you know what, at the end of the day, as long as it helps people, that's what we're here for. We all have to be adaptable. We all have to be able to accept new information, especially as information becomes readily available. And helping disabled veterans streamline cannabis and be the 3rd state sounds a lot better than being the 37th state, if you ask me. Let's do the right thing the first time. Let's not wait and have to have this bill continue to go, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to be with Mandilli every time. And we've only had more people ganging on with support. And a lot of people just kind of thought what we thought was like, oh, they've got this. This is a slam dunk. It's common sense legislation. But then, you do have people with nefarious intent or, less than honest reasoning for why they would be against it. And it's important to dispel that information and to give critical facts. So I'm coming hard the second time, because last time I was like, oh, it's going to be fine. We're going to be great. And now I'm like, oh, okay, these people are willing to play dirty. When they go low, we go high. So let me tell you how it's done. And when I'm in other states, for example, in 2017, I was in New Hampshire with a bunch of other veterans, and we asked that post-traumatic stress disorder be added to the list of qualifying conditions, and it was. So I know that this can work. I know that advocacy works. It's just making sure that our opposition doesn't tone us out with misinformation, that the legislators honestly don't have time to figure out what was real and what was fake. They just are able to figure out, who said what. Oh, was that true? Well, then they'd have to go to a Google search, all of these things. So we've already heard what our opposition is giving out as false information. And now we have to tactfully add that into our rebuttal. So it's all about, it's definitely a hearts and minds game, and it's definitely about saving lives and patients always before profit. So let's keep that going, because our medical marijuana program and those that need cannabis the most are always going to be in the forefront of my heart and my mind. And I know that's the way it is for you too. So by supporting F70 and H179, you're going to be able to help not only the veteran population, but it also helps the civilian population. Post-traumatic stress disorder and opiate use disorder are not exclusive to veterans. They're just all being put together in this packaging, but it is not exclusive. If you are a civilian, you have PTSD, which can happen for a number of reasons, or opiate use disorder. you are also would be automatically eligible for cannabis because it would be specifically listed as a qualifying condition. And again, in no way takes away from any other conditions listed or any other reason a physician would recommend cannabis. It is necessary, and it is something that I hope I can count on your support on. Thank you.